What if I told you there's a way that you can make your production process quicker, you can make mix downs easier, you can make your track sound more consistent and more professional while there is, so stick around. Hey guys, Dilby here. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to look at return tracks. They're an amazing tool that's right inside every single DAW. They can make your production process quicker, they can make your tracks sound more cohesive and consistent from project to project. They can help give you signature sounds. So I'm going to get into all of that and show you how and why I use them. Just quickly, if you like the track that's playing, it's a new one of mine. It's out now. There's a link in the description to Beatport and Spotify if you want to go and support it. Do it. As always, if you want to download the project files from this video, there's a link in the description to Patreon, which is one of the best ways that you can help to support the channel. So let's get into Ableton. I'll talk you through return tracks, how you can use them, how I use them. Let's do it. Alright guys, so here we are inside Ableton. This is a little project that I've set up to demonstrate how we can use some return tracks in our projects to save time, be more efficient, be more consistent, like really damn good. And I'm going to try and show you why. Let's take a listen to what I've got here. It's a little different. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about the track? So, I mean, I don't even really know what style that is. Some kind of like house, progressive, but I don't know. Anyway, so return tracks. That is here. We access it by pressing this little R knob. So a return track, or also called an auxiliary track in some other DAWs, is basically an independent channel that can hold a plugin or effect. You can't put audio or an instrument on this channel, and you can send a signal to it. So if I look at any channel here, this crash for example, we can see these sends. If I flick to the session view, the sends are kind of more easy to see. They're represented by these knobs here. So those correspond to these. So in mine, I've got a drum reverb, a synth reverb, a spray reverb, something that I use for creating like washes and effects build-ups, automation throughout my arrangements. I've got a dotted eighth note ping pong delay, got a quarter note ping pong delay. I've got this kind of crazy delay. I've got this, which is a decapitator that creates a bit of width with the Haas effect here and then adds some saturation. And I've got a similar thing which adds saturation and some limiting, some auto pan and some Haas effect, and I use that to add like some kind of width and saturation to synths and things like that. So this is all part of my template. There's a link to a video up here where I explain my template, why you should use one. It's like massive for saving time, being efficient, being consistent. I think it's like invaluable, but you can check that out. Anyway, so why are all these here? Well, basically, if there's something that I'm doing or using over and over again, I'll implement that into my template. So these are things that I use in every project, basically. They either save time, like the delays, create a consistent sound, like the reverbs, or give me some kind of unique aspect to my sound, like this crazy delay or this spray verb, and maybe similarly these saturations. Anyway, let's take a little look at how these work. So how would we use them? Okay, first of all, for the drum reverb, basically, instead of applying different amounts of reverb to different reverbs to different drums, what I do is I send all of my drums to this drum bus and I send that to this drum reverb. So that gives the drums a consistent space that they exist in, right? So if I want to dial that in, let's listen to the drums. Sounds a bit crazy. A drum reverb is generally a very short plate reverb, which it is in this case as well. So that's almost, when it's at a high value, it starts to sound like a delay. But I find at about -25 to be quite good for the sound I want. So that just gives the kind of the drums this like spacious feel and kind of glues them together a little bit. It makes them feel consistent. Like if you hear someone playing the drums in a room, you can also hear the reverb from that room, and that's what we're trying to emulate here with this drum reverb send. The benefit of doing that is that if I want to change this for some reason, I just change it here. I don't have to change it on every instrument. Or what if I forget to add it on an instrument? Another big benefit of using a send or a return as opposed to just putting a reverb onto every channel is that here we have it set to fully wet. So the reason that that is good is that we're hearing the full dry signal of the drums and we're mixing in some of the full wet signal. So we're not losing the dry signal when we add the reverb to the drums. Benefit of this is that we get the atmosphere of the reverb, but we can maintain the punch and the impact of the drums. In order to emphasize that more, I've got this compressor here, which is actually ducking this reverb to the sound of the drums so that I get the impact of the drums and then the reverb tail afterwards. That's a bit more of a complex subject for another video. Now, the next thing I use a lot is this synth verb. So this is basically like a hall reverb, basically to place instruments and vocals and things like that into a space. Now, if you open up any third-party VST, Diva, Serum, etc., pretty much every preset that you go to is going to have delay and reverb and things applied. The first thing I do when I grab a preset is I turn that off. I want to add my own and I want it to be consistent. It means I have control of it, and it means that if you think about it, it's really confusing for the human brain. We hear a sound and the way we hear like the reverb and delay on a sound gives us an idea of the space that that's in. So if you've got a sound that your brain decodes as being in a massive hall, and then you've got another similar sound that your brain decodes as being in a much smaller, maybe more reflective, like concrete walled room or something like that, it becomes very confusing for our brains to kind of understand and comprehend. All of these sounds start to kind of conflict with each other, and our brains can't conceptualize the space that this song exists in. So that's the underlying reason of why I use this return reverb. Okay, so how does that work? Let's have a look at these chords. So we're just applying the reverb here, right? But we still get the dry signal. The signal does not get washed out even when we applied the full amount of reverb to it. We can also do that with a vocal. Right here, right now. So there's a bit of reverb on this vocal already, but let's just show it with using the return. Right here, right now. So I really like returns for vocals on reverb because I can get like a lot of reverb, a lot of space, a lot of character, but I can still maintain the presence of the original vocal. Right here, right now. Right here, right now. That just sounds so much cooler to me, but you don't lose the presence of that vocal, right? If I just copy this, put it onto this channel and open up the reverb, let's put it onto 50%. So there you get a lot of reverb, but because you're taking away the dry signal, you start to lose that presence and the whole vocal starts to become washed out and less easy to understand. So by using the return channel, we get kind of the best of both worlds, if you like. So these are kind of for mixing. I also use the delays for mixing. So basically just, let's see, this one here, this little vocal chop. Okay, sounds pretty dry, okay? So what I would do is mix in a bit of reverb. Now it's applied into a space, and then to kind of like create a bit more complexity and just bed it into the track, I'm going to add some delay. This goes to my ping pong delay. Right, so without those. You You can also, of course, automate these. So I could have it so that, for example, on this little kind of glitchy bit, it sends more delay. Alright, so the other major way that I use returns is for creating like tension and release in my tracks. So the way I'm going to do that here is I've got this little breakdown here. Alright, what I'm going to do is use this drum bus and send the drums to this big washy reverb here, track C. Right, let me overdo it a little bit. I'll just solo the drums. So that's basically like a white noise riser or something like that, but it's created from an element in the track. So it sounds like a lot more natural, cohesive, and like it's part of the track because it's built from part of the track. It's created from part of the track. So you can use this with synths, with vocals, with anything. I find it really helpful. I do it in every single track basically to use this as like a riser noise and a breakdown to create tension and release. I want it to be subtle, so somewhere around like -15 to -13 is generally about right. Now the other thing which is really interesting in here that I've got is this crazy delay. So it's basically a couple of delays and then a filter with some automation on an LFO, and I just use this to like send things to create like basically effects fills. So let's try it with this vocal. If I do it here, we're on return channel F. I can just draw in a one shot where I send this part of the word to it. Let's have a listen. You going down. Or I could do it with some drums. Because of the filter sweep in this, it's got some like modulation built into it, so it sounds really interesting. So I use this in every track. You know, all of this stuff helps to create consistency between my tracks because I use the same hall reverb to put my synths and my vocals and things in. I use the same plate reverb to put my drums in. I use the same delays. So it gives this kind of consistency between my tracks. It also means that when I want to add some reverb or some delay, I just do it instantly, just like bam. Okay, I know that's ping pong delay because it's always ping pong delay. I know that's my hall reverb because it's always my hall reverb. So what I would suggest with something like this is just trying to experiment, and you can develop something of your own that gives you your signature sound, right? So if we hit Command-Alt-T or Command-Option-T, I believe, on a Mac, we get a new return channel. So let's put in here Echo Boy Jr. Let's put it to Space Echo, some solid feedback, ping pong, and let's use the Primal Tap. Maybe I'll put the Primal Tap before. Let's just grab this Drew's Closet preset, see how it sounds. And then on top of that, I'm going to Filter Freak 2 and Phase Mistress. So Phase Mistress, let's just grab a medium sweep preset, bring the mix back to about halfway. And the Filter Freak, let's go rhythmic, or sweeps, sorry, let's go sweeps, dual notch sweep. And let's see what we get. I'll do it on the drums. So, not perfect, you want to refine it, but that's pretty cool and pretty unique. You can then obviously change the order of these. Change the rate. Change this filter freak. You know, just get crazy with it, to be honest, and then get something that works, that kind of gives you a unique sound. Get a couple of them and that you can reuse in your tracks. Now, the final return tracks that I use here are these kind of mixing ones for saturation. So we've got this 16th note hat here, or I use this on rides often. So that's kind of right down the middle. Now, I think the position might have changed because I just added another track. So it should be here. So that instantly adds some width and some brightness to that sound. You want to do it in context with the other elements. So that just really helps to kind of sit that hat, give it a bit more presence, a bit more width. We can try it on the ride here. It's adding volume, so I will generally bring it down a couple of dB. Awesome. So it just helps to really give space to the drums with that one. And then we can do the same thing with some synths. So obviously that's overkill when I pull it all the way up. So you can hear when I turn that synth width on, it kind of has a bit more presence. It's a bit more in front from the saturation, but a bit more spacious and wide. But of course, we've still got the dry signal there, so it doesn't kind of lose its audibility. Alright, so that's how I use return tracks. I really recommend that you start experimenting with these. It's going to save you time, create consistency between your tracks, and just really help with your mixing as well, because you're always preserving the transients and the presence from your original sounds and adding those spatial effects like delays and reverbs in the back. If you want to download the project file, you can do so from Patreon. I'll freeze all the tracks that use third-party plugins like this Analog Lab, and you can grab that, have a look at how I've done it, have a look at the MIDI that make up these chords, all that kind of thing. Also, there's project files from every video I do, so there's a lot over there. Get in there and have a look. Alright guys, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that, hope you learned something. Let me know in the comments. Are you using return tracks? If so, what for? If you're looking for something to watch next, then check out this video. I think you're going to like it. Well, that's it from me today. Catch you next time. Peace.